Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the Algebra 1 concept of attributes of quadratic function graphs. This is standard A.7A in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 3, which is a new item type called hotspot, of the redesign practice online STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we have a graph of a quadratic function here, and we need to find the x-intercepts of this function. Alright, so let's open up our graph draw feature, expand this out so we can draw on this. So what are x-intercepts? Well, we need to know that x-intercepts are actually called two different things. So sometimes they're called the zeros, and then sometimes they're called the solutions. So all three of these actually refer to the same thing. So the x-intercepts, the zeros, and the solutions, they all talk about where the function or the graph, however you want to describe it, crosses the x-axis or intercepts the x-axis. Now, the reason why sometimes they're called zeros or solutions is because sometimes we will ask the question, what is the x value if f of x equals 0? So f of x being graphed on the y-axis right there. So what is the x value to make that 0? And if your y value is 0, right, that means you are sitting right here on that graph, on that x-axis. And so this is a two-part problem. We've got two correct answers, so we need to bubble in both of them. And what we'll notice is if we just try to bubble in one and then move on, we will actually get an answer error message that says you have not answered everything. So we don't want to answer just one. And then if we try to answer 3, you notice I've selected 2 and I'm trying to click that third one. It's impossible to select 3. So that's a good feature there. All right. So where does this cross the x-axis? Well, I see two different spots right here. I see that it's crossing right there, the x-axis. And so we can call it two different things. So the actual x-intercept coordinate pair is going to be -3, excuse me, that's just going to be +3, and then 0. But a lot of times we'll just abbreviate it, and we'll say, what's the x value? It's got an x-intercept or a 0 or a solution of 3, just because we know the y value has to be 0. And then we've got one right here. We've got this full coordinate pair of -1, 0. But like I said, we'll also sometimes just shorthand call it -1 because we know the y value has to be 0. So those are going to be the two that we're going to select because those are our two x-intercepts. Now, that's not the only thing that we know about this graph. The reason that they gave some of these incorrect answers are going to be pretty obvious pretty quickly here. And so let me switch to green here. So this right here, you see that coordinate pair of 0, 3, that's where it's crossing the y-axis right there. So this is actually our y-intercept. So it's an intercept, it's just the y-intercept rather than the x-intercept because it's crossing the y-axis. And sometimes you'll use the full coordinate pair, sometimes you'll just give the y value, y-intercept of 3. Now, this y-intercept does not have any extra names like zeros or solutions. It's just that, just the y-intercept. And then, this is actually very important right here. This is the vertex, right? So you've got the maximum value of your y value, right? So your 4 is your max value right here. Because it's the highest it goes, and then it's going to go below. So that is going to be 4. And then your 1 right there is the x value. That's also going to be your axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry. But those are just extra things that we can pick up on this graph. Here are the answers right there.